All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. As always, start off with the broad market outlook. We'll go over some top ideas and we'll get this week started. So again, last week we saw the market finally pulling in. End of the week, we were keeping close eye on the 10-year as it was approaching this breakout level that we've been watching for the past couple of months now. Again, me and Jake talked about it last week on the chart talk. It just was flagging, looked very strong, but we got a little fake out move, broke out and quickly retraced back underneath this resistance area. And since then, we cut a nice little uptick in the SPY, which held this downtrend intact. This trend line. I'm sorry. So this trend line is still intact. This resistance level still continues to act as resistance. So we should continue to expect the market to consolidate and trade in tighter ranges since we saw from October until now. So we should expect to see, at least in the short term, 390 really is the short term pivot lower out for the SPY, with 420 being resistance, 7-8% range that we should expect the market to kind of trade within. And as we move into more of this range bound or consolidation type market, we want to be looking for more of those support buybacks. We want to try to look to take more profits into resistance or those breakout areas versus trying to just buy the breakout in general in this new, or what could be new, range bound market. So again, a lot of the sectors look pretty, very strong. We got consumer discretionaries still setting up, for this little base breakout through 250 versus 240. In that space, Amazon, again, looks very similar, again, very weak for the past year, broke down, but it is starting to base and set back up through this, 100 level that was a pretty significant breakout level in the past. So we're seeing that start to set up. So if we do see consumer discretionaries breakout this week, I wouldn't be too surprised if Amazon kind of continues its little, bounce off of support, between this 96 and 100, 104. These are all kind of the spots for Amazon to eventually break out of this base. But again, moving on, most of the sector is kind of the same thing from last week. We kind of all pulled in broadly, and towards the end of the week, we kind of broke back out. And the trend typically is our friend here. So we want to keep following what the market's been doing, but we don't want to just blindly chase things like materials that are up, 5 or 6 days in a row. So a couple of names I'm keeping an eye on and have orders in for. Have this GL, remove some of these text boxes. So lately, the last week, this 120 is held almost perfectly. I kind of expect this to kind of shake out, but if it doesn't and holds 120, I'll look to add up through this 121 and then eventually add through this 124 blue sky breakout area. QSR is another one. Again, I talked about before, trying to look for those support buybacks versus just trying to buy the breakouts. And we were keeping this close eye on this QSR through 68. And now we're finding a potential support buyback where we can buy it versus this kind of 63 pivot low for now. This is more of a shot down here, first at low. And let's see. Got this monster still setting up through this 105 area, 104, 105, but again, still very wide, definitely needs to tighten up. This ORI, one of Chip's ideas from last week, has not broken out yet, pulling in this, lower end area of the flag. Probably needs to shake a little bit lower still, but this could be a good kind of support buy candidate. Pushes down through support. We can find a little buyback back up through it versus having to be perfect and buying, 27, 26.65. So those are the main things on my radar for the week ahead. A couple trades salon. We have this AME feeler versus 135 and got into this FTV on Friday versus 66. And then we'll look to add through 70 in time with this name as well. So with that, Heaven, that's my little quick outlook. If there's any top ideas you want to go over or some member ideas.
Perfect. Yeah, we definitely got a few. Market's been on a tear these last 2 days. Something that I posted in the chat was just to really don't be too eager to put on new risks today, right? 2 days up, oftentimes we'll get some chop or something there. So good spot to be in if you have some swings from last week. Not so good for, brand new entries this morning. But you mentioned that Amazon, I really like this one on the weekly chart. It kind of almost looks like it's trying to shift that downtrend, like you were saying, back into like a stage 1 base and then kind of move its way back up. It's in a pretty important area, like you mentioned, that 100 level goes back to 2018 before it pretty much doubled in price.
Mhm.
So, definitely keeping an eye on this area. Another one that I really like is this Wingstop that gapped up on earnings, kind of sold back off, and now giving us a little base right at that previous resistance area. So
Mhm.
I'm actually looking to buy this one through 176 with a stop just under 168, giving it like $8
Mhm.
for a move back to those earnings highs and hopefully higher. We'll see. Another one I had on my list, which is probably one of my favorites, is this BC through that 89 area. So, big move on earnings a couple weeks ago, and then just kind of digesting that move. Looks really solid. It actually ended up being on the shakedown and being trade of the week too. So that's
Mhm.
always there's a few things that make me feel good in life, and that's one of them is having a trade and then seeing that it's on the trade of the week. So I love that. And then what else? We got this McDonald's as well. Has just been said this weekly chart is phenomenal. Just been consolidating since October or November of last year. So while the market's just kind of going all over the place, this one is kind of giving us a really clean consolidation here. I think through that, I'm not buying it today or anything like that, but through that 272 area in time or 270 looks really solid. And then for some member ideas, George is looking at LKQ through 59. What do you think about this one, Ben?
He looks great. Definitely looks very good. This 60 is probably going to be the bigger spot.
Mm-hmm.
All-time high retest. It's been flagging for months now. All of 2023 under 60. I definitely see the 59 entry, but you're just going to run into this potential $60 level of resistance. So it's probably one that if you're buying 60 and you're giving it versus is 56 or 55, here or verse down here, I think you're better off just waiting for 60 and just buy that blue sky breakout
Mm-hmm.
than buying 59, giving it $3, and it's gonna stall out probably at 60 anyways. But I think this does look very good through that 60 level.
Yeah, I agree. Next one he's looking at is PLRX, which I think was mentioned last week as well by somebody. But looking to buy that one through 32 with a stop under 29.
30, yeah, 32, yeah, 32 versus 30 seems like the spot.
Yep.
I
It's
don't
a
think
little
you'd have,
wide from a percentage standpoint, right? Risking 10%.
yeah, a
But
little less,
these,
but
yeah, a
like
little bit.
29, this would be 29 down here. Like I don't think you don't need to give it that 10%. But if you keep it here
Yeah.
versus 30, you're buying into that base onto earnings. This is also one where it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if it has to shake, even like for the one that I'm in. What is it? GW?
GL?
GL. So it's like this GL 120 has been holding perfectly since the beginning of February.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's almost too perfect. Like it almost needs to shake out for that next move. And that could be another one where it might need to even push down through that, 30 level, shake out, and then, it'll be ready to kind of rip higher.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Next one he's looking at is JPM. JP Morgan. Looking to buy this one through 144 with a stop at 139.
yeah, definitely she was looking at, and this, we had this drawn out of this, like the break of the downtrend, leaving the base, leaving the breakdown stage, leaving the base, had that little shakeout move, finally rips higher. And now we have the next bigger flag through, you said what, 144?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, probably it's there right now. So this is like one of those, like you mentioned before, like don't buy the money we're in a gap up. This is right here. This is probably not the one you want to buy at 9:31 this morning.
Mm-hmm.
But if this can kind of, it's going to take this no matter what, but pulls back in and you get a higher pivot low versus this one, basically we'll call it 140, we get another higher pivot low and it tightens up even more, then it probably looks even better than chasing it this day. And maybe it goes to, 145 or something today and starts to fade.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. I wouldn't buy it today. I'd wait for for it to either tighten up or, I mean, sometimes they do end up breaking. I know you're not a fan of the retest, but if it does have a strong breakout today, you can always look for that retest back at 144 when it pulls back. Next one, Kyle is looking at ELV through 470.25, which is a penny above Friday's close. So I don't really see the entry there. It looks like, yeah, 47. If anything, you just buy at 472 or something like that. I don't see a penny above Friday's close being significant. But yeah, above, that little high from 472,
Yeah.
low risk, also low probability, right? This thing is sort of kind of trending downwards ever since it hit that 550 area. It's just putting in lower highs and lower lows, which isn't really the best, but like you were kind of saying, it's like support buys are rarely perfect. So it almost kind of needs a better shakeout of that area first. And then kind of bounce back, but again, I think because the risk is super tight, it's worth the shot, right? Worth the attempt.
Yeah. This is like QSR as well. It's like it's right here at support. This can either H over today and this would be a topping pattern and it's going to break down into the 50s, or it can hold here, push up through 64, and it looked like crap, but that was the spot to buy. So that's kind of, with those support buys, they're often going to look not the best, but it's sometimes that coin flip. If he's willing to risk the $6 or $7, that is a name that could go 20 or 30 in a couple of days or a week or two. Sometimes it's, worth
the squeeze. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one he's looking at is VRTX. Another support buy here. Just kind of been in a wide, like 10% range, basically 330 to 290, maybe a little bit more like $50 range. So looking to buy this one through 290, 250, with a stop. You didn't put a stop, so I'm assuming it would just be kind of under 285 or 280, I guess, what you put. What do you think?
Probably needs to kind of base out, probably needs to pull into this a little bit more. Very rarely do we see like this down, like this, whatever you want to call it, like extremely diagonal bear flag, V up back to in this range. But if it can kind of trade a little bit more sideways in this range, it probably will look a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, similar to the support buy from a couple of weeks before, right? It was sort of going diagonal, and then like those last few days, it kind of went sideways instead of going diagonal, right? And that's where you started to see a clear entry point, which was that same 292, 293 area. So we kind of want to see the same thing here, where it starts to give us like that short-term little base, maybe a couple days this week would be kind of ideal if it could do that.
Yeah, like this is like right here. Like, maybe it might push up through here. It might go above, this 292, but it's not going to have much follow through, and it's going to need to kind of grind out a little bit and, work its way back up in time, but probably not today. Yeah.
Next one is UNH, United Healthcare, through 480 or 480.50.
This is just a pass, I think. I see this, I could see through 500. Like this has definitely been like a battleground. This was support for many months. Now it's acting as resistance.
Yeah.
But this down here is just kind of the middle of nowhere. It's not really near support or recent support. It's kind of just in the middle of nowhere.
I'm with you there. Yeah. Yeah. Weekly chart looks like an H. Looks like it's just Hing over. If you looked at a weekly, it's, sitting below its 20-day moving average there. And it's just, so probably needs to shake out that 460 first, if anything, to try to find an upside move. Or like you said, break back above 550.
Yeah. And here's the H you're talking about. So it has that initial down move.
Yep.
This is the initial down move. It has that bounce. Such a flag sideways, and now it's coming back into support. And that's where, if you were to, I always tell people, like, draw the pattern out, like draw the letter out, and your hand always ends lower, and that's, you often get this move. And then when you have a flag and you're drawing it the other way,
Yep. Exactly. And back to George, he's looking at this monster which had a pretty impressive earnings recovery last week. If you look at, yeah, that's the weekly chart. If you go look at the daily, it gapped down on earnings right down to that 99 support area, held, had a shakeout, and then next day, big move back into the top of this range. And then Friday had an inside day. I mean, I would love to see this just kind of continue to set up. One day we'll get that 105 breakout. One day.
Yeah. This was
Just got to
this,
keep trying.
this was also another good, like when those support buys look like crap, they gaps down. This like buy back up through 100 now looks so obvious.
Yeah.
But like this day, that was not the thought. It's this thing's gapping down. It's into major support. It
Mhm.
looks like it's going to smoke this lower. It's going to be back in the 80s. I'm going to move on. And then, inside day and up, and it's off to the races. And then, buying 103 is a way different trade than buying 100. Here you're giving
Yeah.
it, $3. Here you're giving it 6. And it's been a very difficult name so far. So that's just one of those examples of, those support buybacks, they don't look the best in the moment. But if you get them right and you get that break off support, then you're sitting with good stock, and it's a much easier trade than us trying to buy 104, goes $1, and then it comes back to break even. And then, but there's definitely in time. Again, eventually at some point, this thing's going to have to go.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not like the 100 breakout in Monster that we can see took, almost
2 years.
Yeah, it took a while. And it only went, and that's like the funny part.
Yeah, with $3.
And then it goes 4%. Yeah. So, but eventually we'll get
see.
this.
Yeah. Zach's looking at CRUS through 105. This looks great.
Okay. Definitely see the type. I mean, it's came a very long way, very, very quickly. And this is technically the retest area. So it's like all-time high. This is the retest. Sometimes retest can push a little bit above it. It's never going to be perfect, but this is this retest area. This name is literally basically doubled since, 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
With no real consolidation. So this is a tough, like if you're trying to buy 105, maybe you get a move to this, retest to 108. But in reality, you probably are going to see this thing shake below 101 before we're going to see a move to, 120. So I think this just gone too far and not enough like real consolidation relative to the move that it's had. That once this little, it's like the like old children's fable with the little wolf blowing the house down. It's like once this gets blown on, it's going to tip over. It's not going to.
It's made of feathers, you're saying? Is this house made of feathers?
Yeah, it's like I forgot the kid's story.
It's called the Three Little Piggies, Ben. Come on.
There we go. Yeah. So that one. So this, yeah. So I think it's
I
a
got
pass for
you.
now.
Yeah. I think if you're a momentum trader and you're trying to get that quick move to 108, you're risking, Friday's lows. So it's like $1 or $2 and you're trying to make $4 I get it for sure. But yeah, then it's all about just managing your expectations, right? Don't expect this to go another 50% in another month or two.
Yeah.
Chip's in the chat right now. He's looking at RES. Chip, did you really just post a $10 stock?
Next.
All right, I'm not even gonna go over that one, Chip.
Yeah.
I am virtually smacking you in the face right now. All right, next one, SLB, 56.05.
Okay. So all the energy names, I'm not the biggest fan of Schlumberger. Still really smoked from even like the pandemic levels. I think there's probably better energy names out there. And you're going to have to give this name. I'm not sure where the entry is here, but you got to give it verse 52. And this is not a name that you want to give $3 because you're not going to get, it took Schlumberger a year and a half to go $20 to be perfect. You're not going to, you're not going to want to risk 6 months of this stock's movements for a trade that's not that clear. I'm not sure, I can see this downtrend break, but other than that, it's not that defined.
Yeah, the other thing is on a shorter term, if you're just looking at the last 2 to 3 weeks, this thing is in an ascending channel into resistance, right? Same thing that it did from early February, right? Ascending channel into resistance, and then it pulls back. So
Mhm.
you don't want to be buying this after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days straight up into resistance. Basically, you need to see this go sideways first, just from a short-term standpoint. But I agree with you. Larger term, it's like it's kind of you're in the middle of a massive range. I think that there are better energy names to go over.
Yeah. Let's
Chip,
see. Like
yeah,
even just really quick, it's like CVX, like basically near all-time highs. I would buy this CVX through this 185 any day of the week versus because again, this is highest it's ever been. Schlumberger, more than dead smack in the middle of its range, and it
yeah.
hasn't seen these prices in almost a decade. It hasn't
Mhm.
seen this $120 level. So this is like you're fighting, a tougher battle when there's easier energy names out there to buy.
Yeah. Chip said that that $10 stock was for the $100 challenge, but that still completely negates the point of the $100 challenge. The point is not to be buying cheap stocks, but to buy expensive stocks that you can still afford, but you don't
Yeah.
have to rely on these cheap
Yeah. So
$10 names
what
that
was the name again?
it was RES,
Yeah. So
which
and he's probably saying that 'cause, like I bought Snap like one share. That was just to use like the last $10. Once this, once we get like a month into this challenge and there's everyone's got $500 or $600 and the $10 isn't that important, this is not really gonna matter, like the extra $10 you're gonna invest. But even this, you're gonna buy 975, you're giving this $1.25, so you're giving this 10%, and this is not gonna go to $12 in in the next 2 months. So it's like you're
and even if it did, that's a 1-to-1 risk reward, which
yeah,
is like silly.
yeah.
So yeah, avoid that one for sure. Next one he's looking at is ONON, which is a little on the cheaper end. I mean, recent IPO kind of bottom right. From a technical standpoint, it seems like it kind of needs to, yeah,
Yeah, no.
break the base, like 25 area is probably the spot. But this is one of the ones where, it's like wait for it to get back to highs and you'll
Yeah.
see how quickly it'll double from there.
100%.
George is looking at TRV, support buy, earnings out of the way. You'd like to see more volume on TRV for the support buy, but recovery off support looks nice. Okay, so this is just a quick little lesson on understanding volume and what setup you're buying. When it comes to volume, you want to see volume come in on resistance breakouts. That's where it's catching a lot of eyes and it's breaking out. For a support buy, you don't necessarily need a massive increase in volume because what's happening is it's just being supported by people that are just buying little by little and trying to get it back up to highs. So I wouldn't be too worried about like a big volume increase off support because support buys are more of like, let me buy here, let me just patiently see it kind of climb back up to resistance. Whereas when you're buying a breakout, you want to see a lot of people in it quickly because that's what a breakout is. But I like this one. I mean, it's clearly at support, nice reversal on Friday. Gives you a good opportunity, pretty low risk trade where you're buying through 184. You have your stop under Friday's lows, which was 180. You're risking $4. You're looking to take profits at 194. So risking 4 to make 10, it's about 2.5 risk to reward, which is okay. Could be better, but it's worth a shot, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else. Ricky's looking at GVA. Through 44, earnings flag developing third time on the weekly chart. Yeah, I mean, I think it could just use some sideways here. What do you think, Ben?
I mean, it's definitely this 44 is definitely a level we could see, like you said, on the weekly. First attempt, retest, third, fourth-ish attempt up here. So it looks good. It's good in that regard. Earnings are out of the way. Had decent earnings. We got you're free until May for any like real surprises here. And you can buy 44 versus we'll just call it 43 for now. You can risk $1. It's like, definitely seems worth it.
Yeah. Bennett, can you still hear me? My Zoom is frozen.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. All right, perfect. Yeah, so I mean, I think, but at the end, also on the other side of that is, you're buying through 44. If your stop is $1 lower at 43, again, $1 risk you could see a move here. I don't hate it, but I think on the weekly chart, it could definitely use some more sideways. This thing went from 26 in October to 44 today.
Mhm.
So, yeah, could use a little bit more sideways. I can't see the rest of the chat because my Zoom froze. I don't know if there's any more messages in there. But if there isn't, I
Last
think that's
one we
pretty much
got
it.
J&J support. Let's see.
No. That's just like, I mean, from a weekly standpoint, this thing is just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks straight down.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a falling knife. I would wait for this to give us a base
Mhm.
and then look to buy on the way up because this downtrend is just so steep
Mhm.
that every dollar or two that you're gonna get in this is gonna get smacked back down by people that
Yeah.
were trying to catch a bottom on this. So
This is almost
I
like a
would
sell
definitely wait.
program where it's like,
Yeah.
you used to see it more intraday, where it would just
Uh-huh.
be like clockwork. The stock would just grind up slowly throughout the day. This looks like just a very big sell program. Like, it's just can't break this downtrend. This is just a breakdown stage. We don't buy breakdown stages. We will even
Right.
here. This is like a less dramatic one.
Mhm.
So less
Yeah.
dramatic breakdown, takes a few months to base, and then you get that move higher. You do not want to be the first one in this party, because that's like buying it. This is the beginning of the party, and you think you're at the beginning of the party again, and then you think you're at the beginning again, and then you're exhausted. And you're like, screw this name. I don't want to be involved. And then it finally goes and you miss it. So that's almost like the monster example. Like, we just want to wait for it to, we want to buy it to that 104. This is just clearly breaking down. Daily, weekly, monthly all look really shitty. So this is just not, you don't want to be getting involved right now. Just because it's the cheapest it's been doesn't mean it's not going to continue to get cheaper.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I mean, if you just kind of look at the pattern, right? You look at what happened between August and October, just a couple months back, that's what it needs to do first, right?
Mhm.
It needs to base. There's where you saw a clear sideways consolidation. And then you can look to buy through that, that little resistance area to try to get a move back to highs, but definitely not trying to catch this on the way down.
All right, guys, we got the market opening in a few minutes. So good luck this week. Again, if you're in the Take Our Money Challenge, you can have up to $200 funded in the account, invested however you want. And so a good trading week.
Perfect.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Bennett. Catch
See
you
in
guys
the
later.
chat.